Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Western Alliance Era 2 Premium Tank Destroyer, the ELC Even NA2 SS-12. Wow, what a mouthful. If you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the ELC SS-12, that's probably how I'm going to refer to it, as the ELC SS-12 or just the ELC, because it's a mouthful. What's it like as a tank? Well, this is a tank that you can get in the Snowball store for 30,000 snowballs. So basically, you can get it for free just by playing the game. And if you're wondering how to get enough snowballs to get something like this, you can do the T28 HTC Earn a Tank Hop that gets you 29,000 snowballs and then just play in the game. And then they're going to run other ops as well that will give you more snowballs, as they've said it in their articles. So you'll be able to get this thing essentially for free just by playing the game. And what's it like as a tank? Well, sometimes you feel fairly useless in it, and sometimes it's incredible. And that's the way I describe this tank. If you've played the Rickety Panzer, the Rickety Jagdpanzer 3, 1, the Jaguar 1, you know, those sorts of tanks that are ATGM only, you will know the pain. There are some maps where you sit there and go, ah, I'm struggling here, like Severogorsk, because both teams YOLO into corridors, and then you really struggle to get yourself in a position to actually do any damage. And then there's some big open maps like Erlenberg, like Redshire, like the map that I'm thinking of, Nebelberg, there we go, like Nebelberg, that can be really good for you because you can use the camo on this thing that is incredible. And again, it's got proxy spottable camo, which I'm really against in this game. But it does have that, so you can use that to great effect. You use the rockets, which have a big high damage, essentially, for when they hit, and be very, very effective as a tank destroyer. But, like I say, there are some situations where it can be a royal pain to play this vehicle. So it's going to be really hit and miss. Some people are going to really love it because they'll be able to use the stealthiness of it and be that stealthy assassin. Some people will hate it because they can't quite get on with the 100-meter arming distance and aren't able to be as aggressive with this vehicle, right? So let's have a look at the statistics of the old ELC Even NA2 SS-12. As you can see, we've got a 70 km/h top speed with a 28 km/h reverse speed, 168 horsepower engine, which is 23.01 horsepower per ton ratio, which means that you do hit your top speed pretty easily. You're a little bit sluggish to get up to top speed, but if you played a Vanguard or an ELC Even 90, you'll know what that's like, where you get to your top speed and you do it quite easily, but when you're just going off the mark, it's kind of like, yes, we're getting to the top speed. So that's what it's kind of like with the ELC NA2. The 28 km/h reverse speed is fantastic, though. You can get this up even further with the traction system. With the powertrain, you can get it up to over 80 km/h, which is really nice. Even more if you run fuels, etc. But I'd fully recommend running smoke instead. 20% internal fire chance. Not been set on fire yet, but it's quite a high fire chance. 2.3k hit points is not that much in general, but you don't really need that much with this kind of tank, as you are basically playing to never get spotted or shot at. Trying not to get shot at in general. 48 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed is pretty damn quick, which means this thing does turn very fast. Great ground resistances do not hold the top speed back whatsoever. 228 meters of steel concealment with 329 meters of concealment on the move. Again, you can get this down to 35 meters proxy spot for Cold War, which is, again, it's ridiculous. I really don't think any tank should have that, but there we go, it has that. 520 meters of view range means that if you buff it up even more, you can spot yourself really well, and you go from basically being a tank destroyer to being a tank that is basically a light tank. And that's pretty much what you are. You're basically a light tank in the ELC NA2 SS-12. You got 50 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, which is faster than the hull rotation, but you probably will end up helping the hull rotation out quite a lot with stuff like the traction system, so that will get better than that. Accuracy, it's an ATGM only vehicle, so accuracy during movement, accuracy at 100 meters, aim time does not matter. These stats don't affect your gun whatsoever, so there's no point paying attention to them. You got 6 degrees of gun depression, which can be a little bit awkward, but you are an extremely low to the ground tank, so it doesn't even feel that bad ever. And to be honest, a lot of the time when you're firing this gun, you're going to be at a great distance, or at least over 100 meters away, so the gun depression doesn't quite matter as much to you. 33-second reload is quite long, but obviously it's a balancing factor. It's a good thing it's that long, because if it was really quick, it would be mental. 33-second reload, so sometimes when you fire those clips, it can feel like you're taking quite a while to get the shots out, but just be patient with it. Truly be patient with it. This tank is all about being patient. You got 12-second intra-clip reload, which is, again, It's fairly standard for these ATGM only tanks that are double shots. Think of the SS-12, for example. Well, you know, the MX-13, SS-11, sorry, which is the equivalent gun. That fires in 10 or 11 seconds. This fires in 12 seconds. Rickety Panzer fires in fact, let's go have a quick look at the Rickety Panzer, for example, because Rickety Panzer here, the Rakuten Jagdpanzer 2, that fires in 12 seconds, so exactly the same. Like I say, this tank is extremely similar to the ELC SS-12. It's just that it doesn't quite have the proxy spot camo that this vehicle does. So yeah, you've got that 12-second intraclip reload, which is fairly standard for this kind of high-alpha ATGM gun. 690 pen means you'll go through everything in Era 2, pretty much, and when you hit them with that ATGM, yeah, you're just going straight through. 1,300 damage, hell of a lot of damage. Hits very, very hard, this vehicle, when you get those ATGMs to hit. 370 meters a second max speed on the ammo means they are fairly quick for ATGMs, and to be honest, you feel that. They don't feel that slow, realistically. And you've got a minimum arming distance of 100 meters, which means that you have to be further away than a 100 meters to be able to use these ATGMs and get a full pen at 1,300. If you fire when you've got a big X on your screen, and you might see that in one of the replays, you will only probably do about 200 to 300 damage, and you'll get the doink sound when it hits, because you're not doing a full penetration. So bear that in mind when you use this thing. And you've got a 160% silver bonus, which is fantastic. Means this thing makes bank, especially since it only has that one round for 690 pen. So this thing makes very, very good silver on the old ELC. So that's the statistics. Let's have a quick look at the modules. So there's the engine. As you can see, there's not much tank, so the modules are basically all in the center of the tank, because there's the engine, there's the ammo rack, that's where the two-man crew sit. And there is an argument for dropping the medkit and running the fuel alongside smoke, but I wouldn't recommend it personally, because your commander tends to get knocked out quite a lot. I've had it where I've been playing this vehicle and the commander tends to take a knock if I get hit, and the commander is one of your loaders. So if the commander gets knocked out, you're going to have a 50 to 60 second reload, which is horrific. And if you're not carrying a medkit, you're stuck with that all game and you're basically useless. So carry a medkit, truly. But yeah, that's where the modules are. Let's have a look at what I run. So I run smoke, naturally, to get the concealment as low as possible and to help me out in really tricky situations. It's quite nice to be able to pop smoke, do a full turn and get away in a different direction. It really helps to bamboozle the enemy vehicles at times. In terms of equipment, I run the camo net, again, to get that proxy spot camo. I run the powertrain and the traction system. Traction system to get the top speed even higher, same as the powertrain. We're just making this thing one speedy boy. You could quite happily drop the powertrain and run vents to try and get the reload down even lower. You could run optics to be able to get better view range, so you can spot more tanks at greater distances, so that you can play a light tank role if you wanted to. It's down to you and how you want to play the vehicle. Everyone will play this thing differently, and that's just how I feel comfortable. I want the speed and I want the camo. Obviously, I don't have to help the gun whatsoever, because there is no accuracy stats for it. It's just basically down to how you fire the gun. And in terms of the crew, well, I've just put it in the Rickety Panzer, so let's go and shift it into here. And in terms of the crew, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Supply Conservation, Clutch Braking, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, Muffled Shot. I run Muffled Shot to try and stay unspotted after firing, because if I can stay unspotted after I fire in this vehicle, it's beautiful, because they have no idea where you are. And that means that you can dish out the second ATGM before they even realise where you are, and you can do that 2.6k damage if you manage to get the second shot in, right? And sometimes it ends up being the case that you fire, get spotted, and obviously the first ATGM hits, you do the full damage, but then they go, oh no, there's a tank there, and even though you get unspotted, and they struggle to shoot you, they still know exactly where you are, and then it makes it even more awkward to get the second ATGM in. So it's quite useful to stay unspotted after firing. It doesn't happen all that often, but it can be useful, especially on the bigger maps. Silent driving to keep the camo down while on the move, and especially when you've got 35 meters of still concealment, you want to try and get the on-the-move camo down as low as possible as well, so you're knocking it down by 55% with that silent driving. Camouflage expertise to knock the camo down by 10% again to get that 35 meters of proxy spot camo. Clutch braking to make the track traverse as good as possible, so I can swivel, outmaneuver tanks, and it just keeps my maneuverability up, essentially. Supply conservation to get the smoke back quicker, because, well, I was running out of perks to run, if I'm honest. I could have run rapid aim, quite easily to make the turret traverse better if I wanted to. I could have run one of these perks, like Adrenaline Rush or Last Stand, for if I end up getting in those situations where I've got very low hit points. It makes everything better about the vehicle, but they're only very, very specific situations, and I never think I feel like you're wasting if you take those perks generally. Or you could run Green Thumb to stay even more stealthy in a bush, Armour Angling to reduce the amount of damage coming in. It's down to you and how you want to play the vehicle, or run Pain Tolerance, decrease the chance of getting a crew injury by 20%, and then run Fuel instead of the med kit, because that could also be a possibility. Again, down to you how you want to play the vehicle. I run Supply Conservation just to get that better smoke. Well, should I say to get the smoke back even quicker. Situational Awareness again to boost the the Situational Awareness to boost the view range, so that I can spot and be that light tanky tank, so that I can get a lot of assistance damage. And these 3 perks I'm going to run generally on every single vehicle, because it's nice to know when you're spotted, especially when you fired your ATGM in this vehicle, because the moment you know you are actually spotted, you can get out of dodge and go, okay, no, leave me alone, right? And that way as well, you can know if something is a little bit too close to you, and you know when you've got into proxy spot, and maybe a Weasel's done the same to you, because Weasels sneak up on you all the time. Because when detected goes off, the little exclamation mark, it's generally too late and they've shot you. Especially in Cold War. Rapid loading, obviously, to make the DPM better, and the Born Lead to make everything about the tank better. So those 3 you're going to take on every tank in Cold War. So that's what I run in terms of recruit and equipment. So let's have a look at the statistics of the ELC EVEN NA2 SS-12 with it fully equipped out. So as you can see, we've got 80.85 km/h top speed with a 32 km/h reverse speed, 176 horsepower engine with 24.16 horsepower per ton ratio, 20% internal fire chance, like I say, really high fire chance. We've now got 57.16 degrees a second track traverse, which is really quick, 35 meters of still concealment, like I say, that proxy spot, 58 meters of on the move concealment, which is not near the proxy, but it's still utterly incredible, 578 meters of view range, help you spot quite easily in this vehicle. You've now got 52.15 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, which is, again, a lot slower than the hull rotation, but it doesn't feel that bad anyway. You've now got 29.37 second reload, which is still pretty slow, under 30 seconds, but generally, it doesn't feel that horrific when you're dishing out 1,300 hit points of damage with the ATGMs every 12 seconds once you've fired. It does feel slow in terms of the reload, but because of the damage output, yeah, generally it doesn't feel that bad. I mean, if you wanted to drop the, like I said, the med kit and run fuel to go even quicker, as you can see here, you actually get up to 84 kilometers an hour, which is absolutely rapid, but like I say, unless you run pain tolerance, that's not really a good idea. You're better to probably run the med kit just to make sure that if you do take a hit and lose your commander, you can get the commander back in quickly. But this tank does play very, very similar to the Monster Jaeger, for example, or to the Rickety Panzer, where especially the Rickety Panzer, it's very, very similar to this vehicle because it's the ATGM only kind of tank, where you want to be playing on the periphery, trying to think about your next move, trying to think about where you're best to position yourself flanking-wise, so that you're not going to attract attention and then be able to dish out the big ATGM damage, and then know where you can actually have your escape route planned and get out of dodge as well. But it's not a bad tank, the ELC, it's just that sometimes, some maps, you really do feel like, oh, what am I supposed to do? And then on other maps, you feel like, oh, this is really good, right? It's one of those kinds of tanks where it's really hit or miss. Feast or famine. It's a feast or famine tank. But like I say, there'll be some people that really enjoy this vehicle, some people that really don't. If you like ATGM-only vehicles and you know what to do with them, especially the stealthier ones, you'll have a great time. If you do not like those vehicles, and you know you don't like those vehicles, you will not like this tank. At all. It's just one of those vehicles that will be probably fairly Marmite. So what we're going to do now is send you into the replays where you can watch this vehicle in action, see how it handles, and watch it for yourself, and see if, you know, see if it's a bit of you or not. So as always, everybody, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the ELC SS-12, and this first game is on this map, which is on Chaobang, and on Chaobang what I'm going to do is try and go up to the position at K45, because from there I should be able to shoot ATGMs at the people that go to H2, because it's quite often that people do that, and if they go to the ledgers at J2, I can also shoot them there too, which can be quite handy. As you can see, this vehicle is very, very nippy, as you'd expect, as it is the ELC even hull, which is tiny and is very, very quick. But as you just saw, as soon as you hit any sort of rubble, any sort of water, any sort of destructible cover, all of your momentum dies. This vehicle just goes, I don't have any speed anymore, and just, that's it. It's game over for your speed. So you've got to be very, very careful about where you are driving this tank, because it can go very badly very quickly. And especially if you're bad at driving, like me, you will end up crashing quite a lot. And this is one that you're probably going to see them blowing up quite regularly, where they're self-destructing because they end up driving off a ledge somewhere by accident. I swear I've not done that, okay? But yeah, it's one of those vehicles that will probably end up being like that because you've got to be very, very careful about where you're driving. So as you can see, we've got the first shots off into the T80. Our first one only tracked him, the second one ended up penning him, and now I'm looking at this T72 AV. Now, AVs are a bit awkward, but if you get the rear, no, they're not. As we do 1,300 damage to him, we get spotted. I pop smoke, go hide in my smoke until I'm unspotted. And now I'm going to move out to see if I can get a better shot for my second ATGM. I see the second AV. Now again, AVs are very awkward to shoot with ATGMs because of all the ERA knocking around. We go for the shot, aim for the turret, and it flies over. It flew straight over. It's like, oh, damn it. I was hoping to get the shot in, but yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. So we're just going to wait on the reload, and I'm trying to work out where I want to go next to see if I can get some more shots off. Because, again, you've really got to be thinking about your placement. Look at their team on the opposite flank. They are basically taking our cap, and we nearly killed everyone over here. So we're just going for the ATGM to finish off the AV. Going for the lower plate. We did 50-odd damage. Great driving, me. Great driving. I told you. I told you I'm brilliant at driving, all right? That was fantastic. It's fine. You know, that's my driving. Rolled to that 2.6k damage. I see another ELC over there. And then I see the Leopard 2 AV, the T62M1, I think it was, in a BMP1. Perfect position for me to get shots at them. Just waiting on the reload. Hopefully we'll get one straight in. You can see the ATGMs do travel fairly quickly. And we get 685 damage into the side of that T62M1, and that's because of his spaced armour. Meant we'd only got half of the damage there, not the full whack. But we get the snapped ATGM straight towards the M1. Oh, it flew over the top. Oh, we're not having any luck so far with where our shots are going, because that one looked like it was going to go straight for the T62M1, but sadly, it didn't. So we're looking at our next target. See the AMX-30B, I'm like, that man is the one I want, but I've got to be a sneaky snake. We've got to be sneaky. We've got to be very, very sneaky. Be very, very quiet. Shh, let them drive by, and then get after them. Let's go, Mr. ELC, even SS-12. And that's what you want to be doing. You don't want to be just driving in front of someone. You want to be trying to get the sneak attack off. So he ends up driving into a terrible position for me to actually get a shot at him. Unfortunately, I get proxy spotted, and I've got to try and pull into a better position to take the shot into the MX-30. We're in that's the minimum arming distance right there. When you have a big X on your reticle, just like that, that means you are too close to the enemy vehicle, and you're not going to do full damage. You're probably going to do more like 300. Oh, a Weasel! Yes, ATGM, let's go. Get out of my game, Weasel. We love doing that to Weasels as we get rid of him. But yes, when that big X is in your reticle, that means you're within 100 meters of your target, meaning that you're not going to do full damage, and likelihood is you're going to do about 200 to 300 damage. So you've got to be very, very careful to be outside of that 100 meters. When you are aiming, there is a little meter distance radar counter thing. Trying to think of the word. I don't know. Brain has failed me. There's a little number basically under your reticle that tells you your distance from the target. Distance from target counter. That's what we'll go with. It tells you from the distance from the target, and use that to your advantage to try and get out as far as possible until it hits that 100 meter range, and then you'll be fine. But we finished the game with the fairly average total. That was a game where we 4,088 damage, 765 assistance, the third class, the 1,040 base XP. Fairly poor game, realistically, for the ELC, even SS-12. And that was one of those games that I was on about where you just sit there going, oh, I just can't get into a position to get a good shot at anyone. Everyone seems to be in really awkward spots for me to shoot at. And because of taking shots that don't quite do any damage, their team just sort of collapses and we don't really do any damage whatsoever. And that's what those types of games can be. And you can obviously have way worse games than that. Like, I had a game on Severagorsk where their whole team drove down one flank, our whole team drove down another, and then it was like, what am I supposed to do? Because I couldn't get into a good position to shoot their team because they just stayed in the corridor, and I couldn't get 100 meters away. And my team did the same, and then our team capped, and that was it. And you're like, well, what was I supposed to do in that scenario? That happens quite a bit. But we're now on Mountain Pass, which is another corridory map, but we've managed to get a good early shot off at the rickety Panzer as he was crossing. We've done 1,217 damage, and that's where having the muffled shot and stuff like that can be nice, and having the really good camo, because we didn't even get spotted by those guys as they crossed, as we got the shot in to shut him, well, to break everything in his tank generally. We get another ATGM off into the T-80B, and we started well. That's 2 ATGMs out the first clip in, and we've done 2.4k damage. We're also spotting across this gap, which means we've just got 1,300 assistance as well. And I'm just going to wait on this reload, because I think, you know what, this is a good position to take. If that FV4211 decides to drive around the corner, going to be able to get a shot through the drive wheel or aim for his cupola, which, you know, again, we could try and get the full damage. So fire the ATGM at him. Sadly, there was 2 guys firing ATGMs at him, and he went, oh no, and pulled back round the corner and got himself safe. So we've taken the corner at J34, and it's like, okay, if we're going to take that corner, I can safely push under the gun of the FV4211, and maybe if I take it at the fullest extent of this ridgeline, I'll be about 100 meters away from this guy, possibly. And as you can see, we are not. We get spotted the moment we poke over. It's like, oh no, that's a weasel. That's bad for me. Don't want that. Weasels are deadly to me. So you can see 83 meters. That's what I was talking about under the reticle. You can see it just there. 83 meters away from that 4211. I mean, I can't get a shot at him. But I did catch a glimpse of a tank on the hill. And thankfully, we put a shot straight into that rickety Panzer as he was sat there. Because he was unspotted. He had no idea I was ever going to see him. And I just caught a glimpse of a big box on top of that hill. And I was like, is that a tank? Oh, it is! And we managed to get the ATGM into him. So I want to get some shots into this FV4211. And this is what proxy spot's like if you're against someone that isn't aware. I'm just double checking that the rickety Panzer isn't there anymore. I'm like, hello, 4211. Do you know I'm here? Does he know? Well, he does now. I expected to get shot because he was kind of looking in my direction. But, no, nope, didn't happen. So that Weasel was shooting at me. We think, okay, you know, Weasel's back in the smoke. He's not going to be able to get any shots at us. Let's go finish off the 4211, and we put the shot straight through the cupola, because ATGMs quite easily go through the cupola of a FE4211 these days. I mean, the 4211's cupola is extremely weak these days, meaning that it is pretty easy to take out by shooting it, and ATGMs, like I say, will go through it pretty easily. We're up to 5.1k damage and 1,498 assistance, and there's currently 6 tanks left on the enemy team. I'm thinking about possibly going through their base and then down the 9 line, but they've got 5 tanks left now, with which 1 light tank is at D7, 3 tanks are moving towards our cap. So we're going to need to use the speed of the ELC SS-12 to get towards the cap, to try and reset it and try and just stop them from capping, because we all know what's going to happen with that. But first, Mr. Bagel Panzer needs to die. Get out of here, Mr. Bagel Panzer. Getting our 2nd kill of the game. And I know I've got enough time to reload and get back to the cap before they even have a chance of capping it. So I was quite confident in taking that shot on the Bagel Panzer, because we're 15 seconds out and they've not even jumped in the cap yet. And there's also 2 medium tanks going back. So we've got 10 seconds left on our reload. First medium tank in the MX-30B is gone. The T-80 has just not noticed us. It's like, hello, Mr. T-80. Have you not? No, he hasn't noticed us. Good night, then. We were within 100 meters of him, but I knew I'd do about 300 damage, so he was well within the range of me being able to kill him with even in proxy distance, so I just made sure I killed him. Now, we've got the 1 reload, or ATGM loaded to go after these guys. Oh, we just sneak in. That was me not using the distance calculator there to any good effect, because we just snuck into that 100-meter range as we shot at the M60A2, and sadly, instead of doing 1,300 damage, it went doink, and we did 300. Sad times, because we went hit 98 meters. We finished the game with a fairly average game, 5.8k damage, 3 kills, 1,498 assistance, the 2nd class with the ATGM expert. You can say a fairly average game there for the ELC even SS-12, even on a map that's a bit corridory. We just had to make sure that we were placing ourselves in the right places to be able to keep the shots flying. So we're on to the 3rd replay, and the 3rd replay we're here on this map, which is Erlenberg. Erlenberg's a very, very good map for the ELC even SS-12. I would say this is probably the best map for this tank, or one of them anyway. because there's a lot of space to maneuver. There's a lot of free space where you can quite clearly spot and see enemy vehicles. Good spots to get early ATGMs out, and little nooks and crannies to be able to hide, surprise people, and just do big damage. It's one of those maps that this tank will excel on, and you'll find it far easier to have a good game on this map, far easier, and outwit the enemy team than you will on a map like Mountain Pass. So, we're looking for early ATGMs. Sadly, houses in the way. We couldn't get an ATGM into the Object 120. I see that Mobat in the distance, and I was like, oh, I could have just fired at him. Okay. Oh, a Chieftain, an ammo rack on tracks. Let's pop its ammo rack. Sadly, no. 1224 damage. Chieftains, Chieftain Mark 5, Chieftain Mark 11. If your ATGM hits anywhere near that front end of the vehicle, their ammo rack's going to pop. They are an ammo rack on tracks. Any big damage ATGM will pop it usually. Got unfortunate that we didn't that time, but it is what it is. So we're just waiting on our reload, and we want to see what we can shoot next. And I'm looking at this going, they're going to be winning the opposite flank. I'm dawdling a little bit too much right now. I need to be thinking about what I want to do. I just missed a tank there. I actually saw a tank on the other side of that ridgeline, but I missed it. Weasel gets spotted. Hello, Mr. Weasel. Put the shot out, sadly hit the house. And you can see the tank moving in the distance, by the way. I just couldn't see it at the time because I was focused on the Weasel. But we're keeping our eye out. Mr. Magak 3, it's like, hello, sir. Sadly, we actually get spotted there, but the shot flies true straight into the back of his vehicle, 1234, and that's because that little Weasel there ended up spotting us. Now, we're getting out of dodge because Weasels, Avengers, you know, the GAU 8, for example, anything with that kind of autocannon, AMX-30s as well, are filthily deadly to this vehicle. Absolutely filthily deadly because, again, this thing has a lot of crits when it starts getting hit. It will lose a lot of things, and also they're as quick as you are, so you're quite difficult to get away from them. Yes, you'll dish out the big damage if you catch them by surprise, but they're also very difficult to deal with in this vehicle, like the Weasels and stuff like that. Avengers, not so much. Ammo rack on tracks. Can we get it this time? Can we pop its ammo rack? We get the rear. We set it 1411 damage. 1411 damage. Set it on fire. Finish off the Chieftain Mark 5 there. And we're up to 5.6k damage. We put a big shot into the rock crawler earlier on as well, and that rock crawler I want to kill. I want to get rid of the rock crawler if I can, because naturally he's got a big gun and we don't want that guy to be alive. So we're going to use the little ridge line here to poke over, get a shot into him, but as I'm coming over, it's like, oh, hello, Mr. Mobat. Maybe I'll be able to fire at this guy because we're 400 meters away without getting spotted. And that's what happens. We set the Mobat on fire, big damage, he pops smoke. We didn't get spotted, which means this rock crawler has absolutely no idea I'm coming. And good night, Mr. Rock Crawler. Mobat's coming in. He hasn't quite realised I'm spotted yet. Now I'm unspotted. I'm just trying to duke away, and hopefully he won't realise. He hasn't realised. And the M60A1 ends up finishing him off, so we didn't have to waste an ATGM on him. We're up to 7.5k damage with 114 assistance. They're in our cap. They are in our cap, so I want to get on top of the ridgeline that they normally camp on at G9. Get to possibly G9, F9, because I should be able to shoot across the river and get easy shots at these guys. And then just as I'm coming along, I'm like, oh, that's a medium tank. What's that? Oh, an AMX-30B2. Oh, hello, sir. Good night, Mr. AMX-30B2, as we finish him off with the ATGM. Got one load in, and again, I know that I can shoot these guys across the river. The 4211's driving into a perfect position for me. Reloaded the ATGM, fire it, hopefully get a shot straight into his rear, and 1174 damage straight in. We're up to 9.2k damage with 114 assistance, and there's only 3 tanks left on the enemy team, and all 3 are currently spotted on their team. They're all down the 1-2 line. So what I'm going to do is just sit on this ridge. I'm going to sit on this ridge in the hope that they give me shots into their side, possibly, because it's quite likely that they will as they're coming back. And Mr. T62, hello, sir, as we aim up the shot with the ATGM straight into the back of him for 1033, finishing him off there to secure our 4th kill of this game. And that was a kill at like 700-800 meters, by the way. So that's an ATGM expert, is it? The medal for killing a tank over 600 meters? Or... yeah, we'll see after this battle, but we just secured that anyway. Only 1 tank left on the enemy team. It's the FE4211, but the likelihood of getting this guy is slim to none, as my team is fully closing in. And, well, Mr. Weasel's going to go... as all his hit points are going to whittle away, and there we go. He is gone. Finished the game with a win-loss total there for that ELC A, even SS-12. Finished with the epic victory. The 4 kills, 10,249 damage, 114 assistance, good amount of silver, 226,000. Long range blast, that's the one. Long range blast for that killing of a tank over 600 meters away with an ATGM. Really nice game there for the SS-12. And we're on to the 4th and final replay of this video, the best game I've had in this tank generally. And we're on Vineyards. And on Vineyards, what I'm thinking of doing is possibly going to the hill at D8, because from there I should be able to shoot across at anyone that camps at possibly D3, or anyone that goes and sits along their back one line, or maybe in the Abbey at H4. And if not many people from their team go to A6, I might be able to take that and try and shoot across down the JK as well. Although I am fully anticipating that quite a few people will go this way, because they generally do. So an M113 gets spotted and a Chieftain 120. It's like, Mr. Chieftain 120, you're a great tank, but you have no armor for my ATGM. We fire the ATGM at him, we get spotted because the M113 is pretty close, pop smoke as soon as the ATGM hits, and thank goodness we did, as that ATGM hits the floor directly in front of us. That could have hurt, but we start the game off with 1,300 damage, which is a good time, without taking any shots in return, and I really want to make sure that I can get this final ATGM out if I can. We see the M113, I'm thinking, okay, let's just shut this guy down. But sadly, because he travels into the smoke, I can't actually get the shot into that guy, and he manages to get away with his hit points. So we're waiting on the reload, and I'm thinking, okay, let's see if we can spot anything that's on the A line, see if we can get any cheeky shots into them, and try and disrupt this flank. Because, well, there's not much from my team over here. And we don't like that. So we're going to fire the ATGM at the FV4211. I should have fired higher and gone for the cupola, but sadly, it hits his turret and we only do about 100 odd damage because all it's based on the 4211. Second ATGM, though, flies through straight into the T10 Ben. The T10 Ben? Yeah, the Ben. Yeah, the T10B. And we're up to 2,754 damage, 436 assistance. We see the BMP. Would be nice to get rid of the BMP if I could. Same as that Bagel Panzer that fired the ATGM at us. But we're going to see if we can get into a better flankier position, because maybe we'll be able to shut down the Chieftain 120. Maybe we'll get a better shot at that K-Tank that's over there. And in fact, we do see the chance to get a shot at him. I fire on the move, and sadly, just as I'm firing on the move, we end up hitting a ridge line, which shoots the gun up into the air, and, well, we missed the shot. So that was just a poor timed shot, really. Bad shooting from me. But Mr. T10, good night, Mr. T10, as we finish him off there for 3.6k damage that we're up to now. So, yeah, you got to be very, very careful when you're firing on the move, as you saw, because that was a poor ATGM to fire at that K-Tank, because I wasn't really paying attention to my surroundings all that much, and that's how you can die quite easily, by the way. And that meant that I hit that lip, which shot my gun up in the air, and I couldn't readjust the ATGM in time. The BMP2 was fully coming for me, and I was like, oh, no, 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 Mr. BMP. Not doing that, and thankfully we managed to get away from him. He lost us because we couldn't be spotted by him, and he gets finished off by the Weasel 1MK. So, we know where some of their tanks are. We know where the Bagel Panzer is over there. We know where the two tanks on top of the hill at A5 are. We see an FV4211 in the cap. So what I'm going to do is try and get into a better position to shoot the guys as they entered our cap. I know there was a K-Tank up here somewhere, but maybe he's progressed with the FV4211. And this is bad from me, because look, the medium tank is spotted at A6 behind me, and I'm like, hang on a minute. VT2, what's he doing there? How long's he been spotted? The whole bloody time, you moron. That was bad awareness. That was just purely bad awareness. We did get a big shot into the FE4211 though, but we took a hit from the VT2, sorry. And it could have been worse, because that could have been a K-Tank, which meant we'd have lost a lot more hit points. So there's a Bagel Panzer. It would be nice to get an ATGM into that guy, get him his hit points down, because that tank will be deadly to me if I'm not careful. But sadly, our ATGM missed. Got to be careful of the incoming other light tank as well. So I'm just trying to take dodging action to avoid both. We fire the ATGM at the back of the Bagel Panzer, which tracks him in place, takes a load of his hit points, which is great for us as well, because, again, the more hit points we can get rid of off that guy, the quicker he's gone. That's a less deadly, well, that's one less deadly tank in this game towards us. Because the heavy tanks, the medium tanks, naturally they are deadly to us, but we can outmaneuver them quite easily, and it's quite easy to get to better positions where we can try and outsmart them. When you're playing against some of oh, it's an Amarak on tracks! Goodbye, Mr. Amarak! That's what we're talking about, Mr. Chieftain Mark 5. telling you, Amarak on tracks. Happens all the time. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that medium tanks, heavy tanks are quite easy to outmaneuver, outflank, and outsmart and outplay. It's more difficult to outsmart some of the light tanks like the Bagel, like the Weasel, etc, etc, because they're a lot harder to hit, they're just as quick as you, and they decimate you as fast as you decimate them. So it makes it extremely awkward and sometimes fairly luck-based as well as skill-based. Obviously hitting them is a skill, but sometimes it's a bit lucky if you do hit them or not, right? So we get a shot into the VT2, which is good. Put him down to a one-shot. I see the K-Tank behind him. I'm not convinced my ATGM will actually go into the side of that VT2. So I decided to get a shot into the K-Tank, putting him down to a one-shot. And now we've got the choice of shooting either of them. The VT2, like I say, is in a bit of an awkward position. And occasionally, I hate shooting at the turret fronts with ATGMs. Or even the turret sides with ATGMs of VT2s. Because the amount of times I've had my ATGMs absorbed by that turret is frustrating. So we put the shot into the K-Tank because I know I'm going to finish him off if I pen him, and thus we get the more damage for it, and the VT2 gets shut down by the Bagel Panzer. Only one tank left on the enemy team, and it's, I think, the enemy Bagel Panzer. I think that's all that's left, the Bagel Panzer from earlier on. So it's like, where's Mr. Bagel Panzer? Is he hiding towards our base? No, he's coming into their base. 4 hit points is all he's got. So I'm looking at this going, yeah, I'm not going to get a kill here. I think that's it. But he's running away. He's popped smoke, so we're going to try and hit him on the move with the ATGM. Sadly, it flies. But it flies into the ground. We were really, would have been very, very lucky to hit that. But we're going to close the distance. He's only got 4 hit points. So with 4 hit points, we should be able to just kill him with an ATGM at close range. It doesn't really matter about the arming distance at that point, unless we get unlucky and it ricochets or something like that. We fire the ATGM, and good night, Mr. Bagel Panzer. As we finish him off for the 4th kill of this game, 12,838 damage, 1,800 assistance with the victory. Top of the team with the 1,725 base XP. A really nice game there for the ELC even SS-12. 290,000 silver as well, first class high caliber. Like I said, that 25 base XP, sorry. Really nice game for the SS-12. Best game I've had in it so far. Like I say, it can be a fun tank. It can be a bit frustrating depending on the map, but it's going to be one of those tanks that will be feast or famine. Sometimes you'll have those games where nobody really pays attention to you, absolutely farm them, or those games where there's the corridory maps where you really do struggle to get the most out of this tank because the 100-meter arming distance is very, very limiting. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success!